unexpected health update, but before we start, I just wanted to mention that a kind friend has set up a GoFundMe for me and my family. We've been homeless for 3 months now and costs are really adding up. You don't have to donate, and please don't feel guilty if you can't, but it would really mean a lot to me if you wouldn't mind sharing the link. I'll have the link up here and somewhere in the description. Thank you so much. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Lately, I've been feeling very not good. I've actually been trending downward since we became homeless in October, but I've dismissed most of that because of the things I don't have access to at the moment, like a reliable diet, good sleep, low stress, etc. However, my back and neck have been causing me a lot of problems lately, and I've been a little wary of that because this summer I noticed a small growth, almost like a pimple on the back of my neck. I thought it was a pimple at first, but it didn't go away, so I concluded it's probably a neurofibroma. I feel like I've mentioned neurofibromas in other videos, but to summarize, my genetic condition, neurofibromitosis, causes chronic migraines and tumor growths, and these tumors grow around nerves, hence the neuro part of the name, and they are called neurofibromas. They're not typically cancerous, but they can grow on dangerous areas of the body like the spine, and because they grow on nerves, they can be difficult to remove. I didn't really do anything then for several reasons. It was the middle of the summer and I'd just gotten back from Leviosa and I was still trying to foster connections I had there. I was still in college, so I had a lot of classwork to do, and we were still looking for a new place before we lost our home, so I was really busy then. I met with my neurologist in September and I told her about it then, but she decided we'd just keep an eye on it. It wasn't causing any symptoms at that point, and these things are typically slow growing, so that was the best course of action at the time. These past few weeks though, I've just been feeling increasingly terrible. My neck and back have been hurting a lot, and then the other day my shoulder just started shaking for no reason. I wasn't even doing anything, I was just laying down and it was vibrating almost. It was really freaky. The next day I woke up and my neck hurt so much I could barely lift my head, and so I thought, you know, it's probably a good time to go to the doctor about this. The only reason I hadn't called and scheduled an appointment earlier was because I had an appointment scheduled from my last appointment in September for December 28th. But when I called to see if I could get that appointment moved up a little bit, it turns out that there had been a glitch in their system and my appointment was no longer on their calendar, and the soonest they could fit me in was 2017. I would have called in mid-November about my pain if I had known that my appointment this month had mysteriously disappeared. We ultimately decided to go to the hospital because while I could have waited 2 or 3 days for a new appointment, I couldn't last 2.5 weeks with this kind of pain. So this is where it starts getting a little... When you go to the emergency room and you look like you're 16 years old and you say, I think I have a tumor in my neck that's compressing my nerves and causing me massive pain and a loss of cognitive and motor function, people are going to think 2 things. 1, they're going to think you're hypochondriac and have no idea what you're talking about. 2, they're going to think you Googled your symptoms and picked the worst possible option WebMD gave you. Either way, they're not going to take you seriously. So they had my mom and I sit in the waiting room for like an hour and a half, and then when they finally pulled us back, the doctor said it was probably a zit or an abscess. He said these were much more common than neurofibromas, which I know because I did research before I came in. But with my condition, the likelihood of it being a neurofibroma was much higher than a typical person. He did an ultrasound of my neck and decided that he was pretty sure it was a zit, and my mom asked him how sure he was, and he said that he'd seen only about a handful of neurofibromas, but he'd seen hundreds and hundreds of abscess zits. So he was pretty sure. And this whole time I'm thinking, wow, I am making a lot of fuss for a zit. He said he could send me home with a hot compress to try and lure it to the surface and pop it, or he could lance it there and get rid of it then. And waiting around with a hot, wet pad on my neck sounded like zero fun, so we just decided to cut it open. Then he moved me to an actual treatment room and went off to get the supplies to pop the supposed zit. He came back with numbing fluid and gauze. Now, while he was out getting the supplies, I Googled what he was about to do. The internet said that cutting into an abscess would almost instantly relieve the pain because the fluid inside would start to drain. So I knew what to expect. So I was laying there face down and I couldn't feel him cut because of the numbing fluid that he'd injected into my neck, but I felt a little pull and then something liquid run down my neck, so I thought, okay, that must be it. I should start feeling better now. But nothing really happened. And I know I can be a little impatient at times, so I give it a couple more minutes, but but nothing changed. This entire time he was still cutting and pulling at my neck. So I opened my eyes and I realized there was a lot of bloody gauze on the tray, and he says, all casually, so it turns out it is a neurofibroma. And I'm like, really? And he says, yeah, I'm just surprised because they don't happen that often and they're usually not all wrapped up like this. My first thought was relief because I'd already told everyone on Twitter that it was a tumor and I was not looking forward to having to explain that it was just a zit. Second, I was proud of myself for being right and asserting myself. Third, I was suddenly very worried because this guy told us he'd only ever dealt with a couple neurofibromas and he was very much a trauma and cardio specialist and not a nerve doctor. And now he was cutting a tumor out of my neck. So he kept cutting and tugging and snipping things, and every few minutes I just wiggled my toes in my shoes to make sure I still could. Eventually he got it out and he showed it to me, and it was really tiny, like the size of a pea or the head of an earring, but that's actually a lot when it's inside you and pushing against nerves and tissue. He stitched me up and went to get a discharge nurse, and I asked my mom to come and take a picture of the neurofibroma for my regular neurologist, and she didn't want to. Apparently, she hadn't heard him clarify that it was a tumor, so she thought he spent all that time just stabbing a zit. When I told her, she freaked out because she said she wouldn't have let a random ER doc cut into my neck if she'd known it was a tumor. He could have paralyzed you, she said. I was actually very happy. I knew exactly what was wrong with me, and I was right. I was proud of myself for being assertive and taking my symptoms seriously, but then a couple hours later, when the medicine wore off and I could actually feel the pain of having surgery on my neck, I was less happy. I'm still very sore, and my brother keeps calling me Frankenstein because I walk really stiffly and I can't move my neck that much. I am still a little freaked out by this because despite being so sure, I wasn't positive until it was actually proven. And once you start getting neurofibromas with my condition, they tend to reoccur and grow elsewhere. So with the future of my healthcare in jeopardy, I'm worried about monitoring my health long term. This caused me a lot of pain and trouble, and I can just feel now how much better I feel without it in me. I'm scared of having one of those and not being able to afford to get it taken out. Anyway, I thought this was a good story to share why I've been so absent over the past week and why I might be a little slow to respond for the next few days. I also thought it was good to share my story to help others who may have the same condition or who might feel like they're not being taken seriously by your doctor. It's really frustrating when you're well educated on your condition and no one takes you seriously. As always, thank you for watching. If you wouldn't mind, just a quick reminder that if you would share my family's GoFundMe link, it'd mean the world to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye.